Thanks for joining me today. I have a great guest who's here with us, Jen Liddy. And if you don't know Jen, she is a podcaster. In fact, she has a podcast called the Idea Space Podcast, which she started, actually it's been about, 6 or 7 months ago. You started it last fall.
Mm.
And Jen also has a coaching program and a number of other things. I'm going to let Jen tell you. Why don't you just tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do so they have some context for your podcast and other things.
Sure. I'm Jen Liddy, and I'm a business development coach. I like to work with creative women who can't get their ideas out of their head, or women who are running a business, but actually the business is running them, like their hair is on fire. So those are the two women that I work with. And I've created programs that help women kind of create boundaries, get strategies, get tools, understand what's in their way and how to overcome those things that are in our way.
Nice. Great. And Jen's very good at this. She's also a really good podcaster. I enjoy your podcast. And I know I've told you this before, but our editors in particular really enjoy your podcast. They sort of like fight over who gets to do it. So, because they like listening to it. And I would just want our audience to know too, podcasters can come from all walks of life, and Jen in a previous life was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And her podcast, I mean, she doesn't, you're not teaching on your podcast per se, but I don't know, she just comes across really well. I think that's why it's so easy to listen to and why we enjoy it so much, because I don't know, if everything feels possible and doable, the way that you explain things and the way that you talk about concepts. So,
thanks. Thank you so much, Phyllis. That means a lot because you guys do a lot of podcast producing.
Yeah, so it's great. And so if you're not listening or you haven't checked out her podcast, I would encourage you to do so. You can find the Idea Space podcast all over, and we'll put some links down below this video when we publish it too. Or you can go to jenliddy.com and find her there, and she'll direct you to your podcast as well. So, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because a lot of people, as you know, we're doing Get Your Podcast Started month, and we wanted to just give a lot of backgrounds or sort of show the diversity, I think, in the people that are podcasting. So really quickly, can you just explain why you decided to start a podcast?
Yeah, I wanted to support the people that I work with. So at one point, a client had said to me, I wish that I just had you in my back pocket. And whenever I needed you, I could just pull out a little Jen Liddyism. I thought, well, I could do that if I did a podcast. And so I really started it to just support the clients that I have and continue the teaching that we do in our sessions and in the group that I run. And so that's why it started. Also, I knew it was a great way to reach a bigger audience and to market myself in a different way, because some people really, I love listening to podcasts, and that's how I learn most of the things that I've learned. So I'm not a big book reader because it just takes too much time, but I really love listening. So I also wanted to take something that I loved doing and be able to put some more teaching out into the world.
Okay, great. Great. Well, that's great. And I'm not sure that I had heard that part about, kind of being able to carry you with them, but that's such a smart way. And the podcasts do that for you too, which is really nice. I have some favorite podcasts that I listen to, and like some meditation podcasts that I listen to more than once sometimes because I just really like them. So, which is a nice medium for that. Now, as you were getting your podcast started, can you share with people a little bit of your experience? Was there something that you found that flowed really easily for you, or was there anything that you found really difficult or challenging? I think people would really benefit from understanding just kind of the experience itself of getting started.
Yes, absolutely. A couple of things I'd like to share. I have several friends who've wanted to start podcasts forever, and I watched them just keep circling the drain. And the reason that what was holding them back was they didn't ever have the time to learn the technology of how to have the right mic, and then how to have the right software, and then how to edit it and how to upload it. And I know that I'm not like a tech genius. I'm a minimal tech person. So I was like, I am never going to get this off the ground if I have to learn all of these steps and all these business parts right away, which a lot of my clients will tell you is scary for them because they're investing in something and it costs money to do a podcast. And it also costs money whether you do it yourself or you hire somebody else. So I was like, I knew that I didn't want to mess with the tech. So I had to hire somebody, and I happened to know a really great person who does that. And Phyllis and I are in a little mastermind together. So I knew somebody, and I knew somebody who was great. So that was the first thing. You have to decide, do you want to take on this beast, or do you want to hire it out? Like, what's more important to you? And I think that I made that decision very easily because I've watched many of my friends and clients like just be in great dis-ease about this decision. To me, this is a no-brainer. Like, that is not my zone of genius. So that's the first thing that I had to decide. The second thing I had to decide was, well, what's my format going to be? Because I love interviewing people, because I love the back and forth so much.
Yeah.
Like, I really
You're a good
love
interviewer.
this when I'm like acting at you. But I also have stuff to teach. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do a full interview series. I'm definitely going to kind of do both kinds, where I'm teaching and it's a solo episode, and then I'm interviewing. So again, that was just like an easy decision I had to make. So I guess like I would say one of the first things I had to do was make some important decisions, right? And then I also knew that I did not want my podcasts to be overly long. So I really try to keep them between like 13 and 22 minutes so that somebody can listen to them in a car ride. That was important to me. And one of the things I'd like to share about my experience is my most favorite podcasts to do are my interviews, because I'm an extrovert. And so talking with somebody and allowing us to have the interaction is super fun for me. It's not as fun for me to do the podcasts where I write out my script and I go by my script and bullet points, because I don't have to off of. I don't know if that came through, because did we both freeze there?
Yeah, I think, well, let's just repeat the point you said. When you have your script and you're reading off of it,
I don't have anybody to kind of push off of. So, I try to imagine that I'm talking to my most ideal client. Like there's somebody who's one of my clients who I know she loves my podcast, and I always talk to her when I'm talking by myself. So I would say that I really made decisions up front about the whole thing so that I wouldn't agonize over it. And then I just committed to those decisions, and it's been really easy. You and your team have made it really easy for me to publish my podcasts.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for sharing that, though, because there's a couple of really good points there. And that, one of them that you mentioned too is just kind of in knowing yourself, right? So you know that the energy of an interview and having somebody kind of to talk with is helpful to you. And I think it's smart that you also have figured out a way to sort of bring that energy when you're doing your solo podcast. Because I know that your solo podcast, I enjoy all of them, but I definitely enjoy your solo podcasts. And I know you get feedback on that too, that a lot of other people do as well. So even though it's not the most comfortable for you to do, I think it's great that you figured out a way to make that work for you.
Right. I do it anyway, which is what I teach my clients, right? Like, we got to do it anyway. You got to figure out a way to make it work for you.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you kind of just, you're modeling sort of a lot of the things that you're really helping your clients do as well, which is great.
Thanks.
That's kind of cool. Okay. So lastly, we're just going to wrap up quick. And I just want to say, if there's anything that you would want to share with somebody, if there's somebody that's just sort of considering, like, should I podcast? Is it right for me? I think one of the things, Jen, that a lot of people, the technology is certainly a hurdle, and you've already sort of addressed that a little bit. But I know one of the other things that follows a lot of times are people are really, I think, have concern, or they're a little bit worried that maybe people aren't going to want to listen to what they have to say, or that they're not, somehow qualified enough, since maybe they're not like some big sort of guru, or they haven't written a book or something like that. So anyway, I'd love it if you could speak to that, if you have any opinions about that or any other advice that you might want to share.
I think that in this noisy world, it's really easy to tell ourselves that nobody wants to hear what we have to say. Because what I have to say, somebody else is already saying. It would really be a great excuse for me to not show up. But the way that I say things apparently speaks to certain people. And so what I've decided is I'm not crazy about my numbers. So if I don't have thousands of downloads, I don't get upset about that, because I know that I have an audience who needs to hear what I have to say, and that the people who need to hear me are going to find me. So yes, I'm not Amy Porterfield with millions of downloads, and
Right.
I don't know that I want to be that either, right? But I really love that I have a loyal tribe of listeners who are affected by what I say. And I just got a text before from somebody saying, I did a really hard thing today, and every time I do a hard thing, I think of you. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. And she wouldn't be doing that if I wasn't putting my podcast out there. So yes, it's for me, it's about disattaching from what it should look like or the numbers that I should have. I'm just kind of doing the best that I can, and knowing that the people who need me will find me.
Yeah. Oh, that is such good advice. Thank you for sharing that. And I couldn't
That's
agree. And
all.
I hope that after this airs, we are going to share this. And I hope that a number of other people, I'm sure, are going to resonate with what you've shared and the way that you share it. And I know that you'll get some new listeners, I'm sure.
Oh, thanks.
So I wanted to thank you for coming on today,
My
and
pleasure.
thank you for helping our audience of people who are considering podcasting, giving them another perspective and another way to look at things. I know it was very helpful.
Great. And please hire somebody. If you don't hire Phyllis, you're insane. But hire somebody to help you with this, because it's just like a waste of time when it's not. You need to be working on other things. This is Phyllis's team's zone of genius. Let them do their stuff.
Well, thank you for that. I agree.
True.
You know, no matter, I'm a big advocate for, even if you're not going to work with us, like, don't let that stop you from
Hire somebody.
get it
Yes.
done and get your voice out there and be heard.
Yes,
For sure.
just get it done. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Phyllis.